Berryhill, Amiano, Huffman, DeLeon, Portantino, Galgiani, Blakesley, Bonnie Lowenthal, Eng, Caballero, and Mr. Speaker. quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask our Assembly Chaplain, Father Constantine Papadimos, to offer the day's prayer.
Good morning. Let us pray. Lord, we can set the tone for our whole day by spending time with you every morning. No matter what may be going on in our life, no matter the difficulties or challenges, the morning holds the promise of new hope for each day. Lord, help us to make spending time with you a priority in our life and to visit you every day. For when we seek you in the morning, you will set the tone for our day and set us on a path of blessings. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to continue to stand and join us for the flag salute. We ask Dr. Hernandez to lead us in the pledge. Dr. Hernandez. You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Thursday, August 19, 2010. Assembly met at 1:30 p.m. Honorable Fiona Moss, Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly, presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dotson Wilson at the desk. Assistant Clerk Timothy Moreland reading. The roll was called. Adams, Amiano, Anderson, Arambula, Bass, Bill Berryhill, Tom Berryhill, Blakesley, Block, Blumenfield, Bradford, Brownlee, Buchanan, Caballero, Calderon, Carter, Chesbro, Conway, Cook, Cotto, Davis, De La Torre, De Leon, DeVore, Ing, Evans, Fior, Fletcher, Fong, Fuentes, Fuller, Fortani, Gaines, Gaggiani, Garrett, Gatto, Gilmore, Hagman, Hall, Harkey, Hayashi, Hernandez, Hill, Huber, Huffman, Jeffries, Jones.
Mr.
Knight,
Calderon moves and Mr. Knight seconds that the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Message from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Okay, there's a Rules Committee meeting right now in the Rules Committee room. Rules Committee meeting in the Rules Committee room. Okay, members, we're going to start with business on the daily file. We're going to start with the concurrence items. Members should be ready with your concurrence items. File item 1, AB 1683. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1683 by Assemblymember Torres, an act relating to education.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Assembly Bill 1683 is a technical bill that will specify the county offices of education are included in the definition of school districts for the purpose of allocating an appropriation of federal funds. Senate amendments were taken to address the governor's veto message concern from a similar bill last year. The amendments clarify that charter schools are also eligible to receive federal funds. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 5, AB 2443. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2443 by Assemblymember Emmanuel Perez, an act relating to state government.
Mr. Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 2443 enhances two elements of the state's international trade and foreign relations program. The amendments in the Senate set forth a statutory framework for the legislature and the governor to adopt sister state relationships, including provisions relating to goals, measurable outcomes, reporting, and timelines. In addition, the Senate amendments highlight the use of sister state relationships as a tool for promoting economic growth and sustainability of small, medium, and large companies by increasing their potential for trade and investment. In these difficult economic times, we must hold ourselves accountable for the activities in which we engage. We must ensure that state resources are not wasted on activities that do not serve a specified purpose. I ask for your aye vote and concurrence.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Perez moves the call. File item 9, AB 302. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 302 by Assemblymember Bell, an act relating to deadly weapons.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill, AB 302, was amended in the Senate to address a new subject and received no opposition. Under current law, people are prohibited from possessing or purchasing a firearm for a period of 5 years after they are taken into custody because they are a danger to themselves or others as a result of a mental disorder. The mental health facility to which they are admitted is required to notify the State Department of Justice immediately. But that does not always happen when notices are sent by mail. This bill, AB 302, simply states that the required notice from mental health facilities to the Department of Justice must be sent electronically. Members, timely reporting can keep firearms out of the hands of people who pose a danger to themselves or others and can save lives and avoid suicides. I request I vote on concurrence of this measure that will increase public safety at no added cost to state and local mental health facilities.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 11, AB 1254. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1254 by Assemblymember Tom Berryhill, an act relating to fish and wildlife.
Mr. Berryhill.
Madam Speaker and members, AB 1254 has bipartisan support and enacts simple changes in the Fish and Game Code to seek to save the state some much-needed funds. It has support on both sides. I urge and I vote.
Ms. Fuller. Your mic is up. Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 13, AB 1679. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1679 by Assemblymember Torres, an act relating to public safety.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Assembly Bill 1679 permanently designates the second full week of April of each year as California Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. This week corresponds with the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, first established by Congress in 1991 and made permanent in 1994. California designated the second full week in April as California Telecommunicators Week by resolution last year and this year. The bill is supported by law enforcement and public safety organizations. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 15, AB 1854. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1854 by Assemblymember Amiano, an act relating to school attendance.
Mr. Amiano.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and colleagues. AB 1884 will improve access to education by providing clear guidelines to all school districts by identifying specific and standardized documents as proof of residency for school attendance. The amendments in the Senate merely add a co-author and make technical changes. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Amiano moves the call. File item 17, AB 2143. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2145 by Assemblymember Amiano, an act relating to drug overdose treatment.
Mr. Amiano.
Madam Speaker and colleagues, Assembly Bill 2145 extends the sunset and expands the existing pilot program as established by the Overdose Treatment Liability Act of 2007. Senate amendments narrow the scope of the bill and extends the date for which local health jurisdictions that operate naloxone treatment programs must report to the legislature. The bill maintains wide bipartisan support and is sponsored by the San Francisco Harm Reduction Coalition and the Los Angeles Overdose Prevention Task Force. I respectfully urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 18, AB 2210. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2210 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to interception of communications.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill will ensure that law enforcement officers engaged in the most dangerous hostage and barricade situations are not subject to civil and criminal liability for doing their jobs. By allowing certain law enforcement officers in very limited situations to engage in eavesdropping in hostage or barricade situations. Amendments taken in the Senate were clarifying and made clear that the bill does not speak one way or the other about the admissibility of any evidence obtained. I respectfully ask for your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 63, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 20, AB 2461. Clerk will read. That bill is not eligible. We're going to move on to the next bill. File item 21, AB 2499. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2499 by Assemblymember Portantino, an act relating to vehicles.
Mr. Portantino.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, AB 2499 is a long overdue measure that brings all segments of traffic violator school industry under the purview of the Department of Motor Vehicles. This will ensure a uniform set of standard operations in all counties and a uniform traffic safety curricula that California consumers who make minor traffic mistakes can count on. This measure carries out the recommendations that were contained in a report required under legislation chaptered in 2007. Oftentimes, this legislature talks about reports and studies and that we fail to implement recommendations. Well, this is a case in point where that study proved submitted recommendations, and this bill is the action based on those recommendations. It contains delayed operative dates to ensure a smooth transition, and the Senate amendments were vetted with heavy involvement by all players in the industry, including the Judicial Council, DMV, CAPS, counties, and traffic violator schools. Since AB 2499 represents a major but needed change in the industry, it still carries some minor opposition. We're hoping that they see the merit in consolidation. Members, we have been clear from the start that if one exemption is made from DMV oversight, we will return to the current disjointed system. That's why it's important that all counties work together on this measure with DMV, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 53s, no 5. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 22, AB 2668. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2668 by Assemblymember Galgiani, an act relating to weapons.
Ms. Galgiani.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, AB 2668 is a cleanup bill to existing law affecting the possession of weapons within the state capitol and the Legislative Office Building. The Senate amendments address chaptering out problems with the Senate Public Safety Committee's omnibus bill. AB 2668 clarifies the penal code to more closely mirror the law relating to the possession of weapons in other state or local buildings and will allow law enforcement to carry out their job more efficiently of ensuring the safety of all Capitol employees. The bill is sponsored by the Sergeant of Arms and there is no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote.
Who's going to do it? Who's going to?
All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 67, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Colonel Cook, you're recognized.
I rise to ask permission to take up a bill for Senator Emerson on his behalf.
Without objection.
Obviously, there is no important objection.
Without objection?
I can do it.
Colonel Cook.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, clerk will read. Clerk will read. Sorry.
Assembly Bill 2461 by former Assemblymember Emerson, presented by Assemblymember Cook, an act relating to vehicles.
Colonel Cook.
Those of you that were not paying attention, it's Cook, not Emerson. Emerson's much older. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And member, this bill is a cleanup measure to AB 619, which authorizes the Department of Motor Vehicles to administer a one-time vehicle registration amnesty program for vehicle owners who had previously registered their car incorrectly. Senate amendments give the Bureau of Automatic Repair legal authority to give a tailpipe-only examination in order to determine if the vehicle has been brought into compliance. Also extends the sunset for the original amnesty program due to delayed implementation and makes other technical changes. The bill has received no votes and respectfully ask for your concurrence in Senate amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 61, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 24, AB 2777. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2777 by the Senate Assembly Committee on Transportation and Act relating to transportation.
Ms. Lowenthal. Transportation Bill. AB 2777. Passed temporarily. File item 25, AB 2789. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2789 by the Assembly Committee on Banking and Finance and Act relating to money transmission.
Mr. Eng.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is a committee bill. The bill is intended to improve the regulation and licensure of non-bank money service providers. It's a consensus bill, which is a product of a discussion between the regulated industry, Department of Finance, and consumer groups. Senate amendments make technical changes. Respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 58, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 26, AJR 38. Clerk will read.
Assembly Joint Resolution 38 by Assemblymember Caballero relative to public resources.
Ms. Caballero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Thank you for allowing me to present AJR 38 today for concurrence in Senate amendments. The Senate amendments make a minor wording change requesting that the U.S. Department of Interior complete its two-gate fish demonstration project studies as soon as possible. Members, the bill has enjoyed bipartisan support, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote on concurrence.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 56, noes 1. Senate amendments are concurred in. Members, I've gone through the concurrence items, file 1 through 27, which are eligible right now, and I think we're done with that portion. Mr. Calderon.
Request permission to return to motion resolutions. Granted.
Without objection.
All right, I want to take up essentially three kinds of amendment. And in Group A, and the clerk has those amendments, we want to read those bills, take a vote on the first bill, and then substitute the roll for the remainder of the bills read by the clerk. Then there's a Group B amendments. We will have the clerk read those bills, take a vote on the first of those bills, and then substitute the roll for the remaining bills. And then there's a third bill by Mr. Leno where there are hostile amendments. So with your permission, Madam Speaker, I'd like to take up the first A group of amendments.
Without objection. Is he? The clerk will read the bills that have support on both sides.
Assembly Bill 2098 with amendments, Senate Bill 1149 with amendments, Senate Bill 949 with amendments, Senate Bill 657 with amendments, Senate Bill 945 with amendments, Senate Bill 127 with amendments, Senate Bill 972 with amendments, Senate Bill 877 with amendments, Senate Bill 965 with amendments, Senate Bill 1357 with amendments, Senate Bill 1146 with amendments, Senate Bill 550 with amendments, Senate Bill 675 with amendments, Senate Bill 722 with amendments, Senate Bill 812 with amendments, Senate Bill 890 with amendments, Senate Bill 918 with amendments, Senate Bill 930 with amendments, Senate Bill 1116 with amendments, Senate Bill 1157 with amendments, Senate Bill 1391 with amendments, Senate Bill 1414 with amendments, Senate Bill 1440 with amendments, Senate Bill 1407 with amendments, Senate Bill 1340 with amendments, Senate Bill 501 with amendments, Senate Bill 691 with amendments, Senate Bill 76 with amendments, Senate Bill 1201 with amendments, Senate Bill 1124 with amendments, Senate Bill 1237 with amendments, Senate Bill 1268 with amendments, Senate Bill 1329 with amendments, Senate Bill 1399 with amendments, Senate Bill 165 with amendments, Senate Bill 427 with amendments, Senate Bill 1192 with amendments, Senate Bill Bill 1240 with amendments, Senate Bill 253 with amendments, Senate Bill 282 with amendments, Senate Bill 579 with amendments, Senate Bill 700 with amendments, Senate Bill 1456 with amendments, Senate Bill 1476 with amendments, Senate Bill 1491 with amendments, Senate Bill 1551 with amendments, Senate Bill 346 with amendments, Senate Bill 390 with amendments, Senate Bill 993 Set 1 with amendments, Senate Bill 993 Set 2 with amendments, Senate Bill 1006 with amendments, Senate Bill 1088 with amendments, Senate Bill 1091 with amendments, Senate Bill 1207 with amendments, Senate Bill 1254 with amendments, Senate Bill 1284 with amendments, Senate Bill 1365 with amendments, Senate Bill 1381 with amendments, Senate Bill 608 with amendments, and Senate Bill 1169 with amendments.
Is there any objection to adopting a voice vote on these non-controversial amendments? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. Now we're going to take up that amendments that do not have support on both sides. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 847 with amendments, Senate Bill 1131 with amendments, Senate Bill 1011 with amendments, Senate Bill 399 with amendments, Senate Bill 817 with amendments, Senate Bill 837 with amendments, Senate Bill 970 with amendments, Senate Bill 1460 with amendments, Senate Bill 1462 with amendments, Senate Bill 220 with amendments, Senate Bill 1072 with amendments, Senate Bill 7 with amendments, Senate Bill 1398 with amendments, Senate Bill 991 with amendments, Senate Bill 192 with amendments, Senate Bill 1203 with amendments, Senate Bill 1093 with amendments, and Senate Bill 1445 with amendments.
Mr. Calderon?
Madam Speaker, I'd like to take a vote on the first bill read, and then I move to substitute the roll for the remaining bills.
Okay, Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We do concur with that. We're going to ask for a no on the amendments and then ask for the substitute roll for each additional one.
Mr. Hagman is asking for a no vote. Mr. Calderon is asking for an aye vote. On these second set of amendments, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Mr. Calderon is asking for an aye on the amendments. Mr. Hagman's asking for a no. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 25. The amendments are adopted, out to print, and back on file. And the vote, 43 ayes, noes 25, will be substituted on all the bills that were just read on the second set that were not support. Mr. Calderon.
Now, on last item, item 70A-4, SB 543 by Leno, there is a request by Mr. Hagman to amend that bill. Those amendments are at the desk, I believe.
SB 810, item 175, clerk will read.
Senate Bill 810 with amendments by Assemblymember Hagman.
Mr. Hagman, you may open.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I propose amendments to SB 810 in hopes of protecting the people of California. I believe SB 810 will serve the people of California better as protection from intrusive federal mandate as the imposition of excessive new government program. Once again, the government is telling their citizens the best way to care for themselves is the government's way, and they're using their all too familiar mandate to force compliance. Either buy individual health care insurance or pay a hefty fine to the federal government. Well, hopefully in California, we still have some of the individual spirit that made us state the envy of the world. For the good of our state, I feel we should be protecting the people from the restricted and oppressive mandates, as well as the creation of new spending commitments that will almost be equal in size to our entire state budget this year. Imposing billions in higher taxes on our employers will simply force many to consider layoffs or closing their doors to California for good. Please let's take a step in the right direction together as a state and do the right thing. We can trust our citizens to do what's best for them. I ask for your no vote to lay these amendments on the table, which will probably
Ms. Calderon, for what purpose
To
do you
lay
rise?
these amendments on the table.
The motion by Mr. Calderon to lay the amendments on the table, seconded by Mr. Davis. This motion is non-debatable. The clerk will open the roll on the motion. Mr. Calderon is asking for an aye vote. Mr. Hagman is asking for a no vote. All those vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 42, noes 23. The motion carries. The amendments are laid on the table without objection. Members, without objection, we will take up file item 70, SB 543, Leno, for purposes of amendments. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 543 with amendments by Assemblymember Mah.
Mr. Torlakson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, the amendments move the language from the Welfare and Institutions Code to the Health and Safety Code. I respectfully ask your aye vote on the amendments.
Without objection, we will substitute the roll call vote. Are there opposition on these amendments? Mr. Hagman?
Madam Speaker, just clarify, we're substituting the B roll call vote on this matter, correct?
That is correct. Without objection? Ayes 43, noes 25. Amendments are adopted. Out to print and back on file. Okay, we have a couple more concurrence items. File item 14, AB 1715. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1715 by Assemblymember Fuentes, an act relating to state claims, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Mr. Fuentes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill is one of two annual bills sponsored by the California Victim Compensation and Government Claims Board and carried by the Appropriations Committee chairs. It appropriates $998,029 to pay 257 claims against the state as approved by the board. The Senate amendments made minor technical adjustments. The bill, supported by the board, the Department of Finance, and the administration, has no opposition. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 59, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, on item 171 by Ms. Kehoe, which was part of the adoption of the group amendments, there's an error in the amendment, so I move to refer that back to Policy Committee.
Without objection? Is there a second? Passed temporarily. File item 16, AB 1873, Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1873 by Assemblymember Huffman, an act relating to property assessed clean energy bonds.
Mr. Huffman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This measure will authorize the Treasurer, the Public Employee Retirement System Board, and the State Compensation Insurance Fund to purchase local property assessed clean energy bonds. Amendments in the Senate also allow local governments to use joint powers authorities in connection with these programs. This is a bill that has no opposition, no cost to the state, and has enjoyed bipartisan support. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 17. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 23. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2746 by Assemblymember Blakesley, an act relating to insurance.
Mr. Blakesley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. AB 2746 creates the position of the Chief Mitigation Officer for the California Earthquake Authority. Senate amendments reflect requirements that the position of the Chief Mitigation Officer file statements with the Fair Political Practices Committee. This bill has received no votes. I ask for concurrence with Senate amendments.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question to the author?
Without objection.
Mr. Blakeslee, is this your last bill as an assembly member here?
I'll do my very best to make sure there's no want for further effort on this body to dispose of the kind of mischief I can make in the other house.
Is that a yes or no? Is that a political speech? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Calderon.
Yes, point of order, Madam Speaker. Is Mr. Blakesley still a member of this House? Or has he been sworn into the Senate yet?
He's still sitting here, so.
All right, because I might have to move reconsideration on this until he does get sworn into the Senate.
Clerk will note. Okay, seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 71, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 24, AB 2777. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2777 by the Assembly Committee on Transportation and Act relating to transportation.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These are technical amendments to our annual omnibus bill. They allow a majority of the members present at a duly constituted meeting of the California Transportation Financing Authority to take official actions, repeal several outdated reporting requirements, and contain chaptering out provisions for AB 1944 and AB 1648. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 68, no 0. Senate amendments are concurred in. Any other members have any concurrence items? File items 1 through 27 that you'd like to take up today? Okay, we have 2 items on call. First item, file item 5, AB 2443. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 48, noes 21. Senate amendments are concurred in. File item 15, AB 1854. Clerk will post. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 45, noes 24. Senate amendments are concurred in. One last concurrence item. File item 19, AB 2264. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2264 by Assemblymember De Leon, an act relating to debt collection.
Mr. De Leon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. AB 2264 is back for concurrence. Amendments were taken in the Senate to streamline the intent of language and address workload concerns that were raised by Judicial Council. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 43, noes 22. Senate amendments are concurred in. Pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring the following bills to committee. File Item 3, AB 25, Environmental Safety Committee, to the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials Committee, and File Item 11, AB 1254, Tom Berryhill's bill, to Water, Parks, and Wildlife. Yeah, pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2. Scratch file item 11. We've got one more bill we're going to refer to committee, but we are clarifying that. Session schedule. Today is the last day to amend measures on the Assembly floor. Today is also the last day to put a one-day file notice across the desk for a conference committee meeting to be held on Tuesday, August 24th. Monday, August 23rd, floor session at 1 p.m. Tuesday, August 24th, floor session at 9 a.m. Monday session at 1 p.m. Tuesday session at 9 a.m. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'd like to rescind the vote on item number 11, AB 1254, by Mr. Berryhill, whereby the Assembly passed that bill out and refer it to Water Parks and Wildlife.
Without objection, the vote is rescinded on AB 1254. And pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am referring the bill to Water Parks and Wildlife. Okay, pursuant to Assembly Rule 77.2, I am re-referring file item 171, SB 346 Kehoe, to the Environmental Safety and Toxics Material Committee. Hey, members, we're all going to need to settle back down in our chairs. We're going to take up one more bill. By unanimous consent, we are going to rescind the action, whereby SB 346 was re-referred to the Environmental Safety and Toxics Committee. Without objection, we will rescind the vote, whereby the amendments were adopted earlier today on SB 346. Without objection. Without objection, there are a new set of amendments to be taken up on SB 346. File item 171. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 346 with amendments by Assemblymember Fletcher.
Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These amendments reflect months of negotiation between the auto industry, local government, and the environmental community. They represent a true compromise from all sides on this very important issue to local government, and I would request your support of these amendments.
Seeing no further questions or debate, and without objection, we'll take a voice vote on these amendments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The amendments are adopted, out to print and back on file. Mr. Calderon.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I request unanimous consent to suspend the rules to allow Mr. Monty to take up file item 221 SB 900, which was amended yesterday.
Mr. Hagman.
We do object to the rule suspension. Ask for roll call vote.
Requires a second to Mr. Calderon's motion. Mr. Fior seconds. Motion to suspend the rules. Mr. Calderon asked for an aye vote. Mr. Hagman asked for a no vote. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. This requires 40 votes, members. Mr. Calderon, clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 40, noes 20. Motion to suspend the rules is granted. We will hear file item 221, SB 900. Clerk will read.
Senate Bill 900 by Senator Alquist, an act relating to health care coverage.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. One of the most important elements of the federal health care reform bill is the establishment of health insurance exchanges. A health insurance exchange is basically a one-stop shop where individuals and small businesses can buy health insurance and benefit from the bulk purchasing power of an organized marketplace. The exchange will be the place where millions of Californians will get their health care coverage. SB 900 establishes an exchange in state government that would be governed by a 5-member board in state government and that would have people with knowledge and expertise in the health care market. This bill is part of a 2-bill package with the other bill authored by Speaker Perez. AB 1602 outlines the duties of the exchange, and this bill, SB 900, establishes the exchange. Members, I ask for an aye vote.
Mr. Silva.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in opposition to this measure because I don't believe we need to grow the size of government, especially in today's climate. Members, if the state gets into the health care exchange business at all, I believe that a nonprofit should be empowered to run it, not another government bureaucracy. Consumer Choice has been running a health exchange in the small group market for companies between 2 and 50 employees since 1996. They have also been running a health exchange in the mid-market for companies with employees between 51 and 100. Under the terms of the Obamacare, we don't need to take action until 2014 on a state health care exchange. And I think there are much better ways to give Californians more affordable health care options than a new government exchange. I ask for your no vote.
Mr. Knight.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I also rise in opposition when we are facing a $19.1 billion deficit. These are difficult times. This plan will not be implemented until 2014. Part of this program is passed through to the state. But as the LAO has said, we do not have to do this. The federal government can do this. And so we are rushing to do something 4 years in advance that the LAO, our nonpartisan group, has said we don't even have to do. So we are pushing forward with something that is going to push this state into a bigger problem, have more financial problems in the future, and we are doing it at a time when we can ill afford to do this. I ask for a no vote.
Mr. Hagman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise in opposition to this bill because I believe it will create costly new health care bureaucracy that our hardworking Californians cannot afford. Members, under the new federal health care law recently enacted by Congress, the federal government will be creating a new national health care exchange by 2014, and they will do so whether California takes action to pass this bill and its companion bill, AB 1602, or not. Given the broad national scope of the federal law and the great uncertainty over whether or not it will be implemented in current form, doesn't make sense for us to take a step back and wait to see what happens there. We know that to create a new health care exchange in California would be very expensive, new costs that will be borne by employers, taxpayers, and health providers alike. We will need to hire many new government bureaucrats to administer the exchange and potentially set up new agencies and departments. At the time we are facing a $19.1 billion deficit and deep economic crisis in our state, I don't believe that creating a new massive new state health care bureaucracy is the right approach. I ask for your no vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, Mr. Monning, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I appreciate the concerns expressed by my colleagues. It's important to understand the establishment of the exchange puts no onus, no obligation on the general fund. It positions California to effectively and smoothly transition to provide coverage to up to 4.5 to 5 million Californians currently without coverage. The exchange will also give the state of California maximum leverage to get the best deals possible for coverage for small business owners, for people currently without coverage. This positions California to draw down federal dollars to expand health care coverage to Californians. I ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no further questions or debate, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the votes. Ayes 44, noes 22. Measure passes. I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Calderon moves and Mr. Hagman seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, August 23rd at 1 p.m. Quorum call is lifted.